What's up, my precious little pack, and welcome back to VEGA Conflict. I said I'd show off the one target. I never did that. I hit one and I decided not to show them off because they added a fully mark upgraded Sovereign using 3 Xenocyclotron beams to the level 70 and above, from what I understand. And it outranges ours, so again it relies on doing damage from a range at which you have to move through just to engage. So again, more BS on Kicksai's part, but I've been hitting the motherships. I figured that today what I'd do for all of you of my little pack is I would go on ahead and I would attack a mothership, as I've been doing, because I decided I didn't want to grind this time around and I'd take the repair time. But I'd be doing so in a fashion that I thought was fun, so more or less no-braining it through them. And I'm not too worried about the repair times, because for the rewards that I'm getting, I'm going to be able to mark upgrade my Sovereign Carrier, Dreadnought. And the goal is simple for today, just to continue doing that, continue working towards that single goal. I don't know what I did the first time around that I attacked, but I got only 8 hours and 12 minutes repair time against one. Now I'm taking around 10 hours still. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go find one, and I'll bring you all right back. Alright, we found our target. Let's go ahead and let's have some fun. And I'm going to try and focus fire each one down, with the exception from the carrier itself. I'm going to have the groups fire on individual targets, because I would like to try and pick them apart a little bit differently than how I normally do it. And I don't want the Sovereign being hit too much, because unlike just about all the ships in this fleet, there's only one of them that is actually equipped with resistance to most of the damage types here. And as you can probably tell, it's not the one that's being shot, ever. I am producing a fleet just to be resistant to the damage types. Okay, you guys go destroy the destroyers before they do any more damage. Okay, you're at full health. I want you sitting right on top of their ship, because you'll be the only one that can sit within range without dying or taking an absurd amount of damage. Gather range, gather range, gather range. There we go. My Dreadnought face-hugging that one. Well, at least you two have shields to rely on. And it's out. I'll mop up these guys, and then I'll see y'all back in my base. And that was all I needed to get the components to start the first sovereign upgrade, as well as be one step closer to being able to produce the elite credit. So the more quickly I can upgrade it, the faster I can get to the elite level, and it will not be the slowest ship in the fleet, so it'll move a little bit faster in sector via the astronomical units per second. Well, per hour. Prizes so far, I've collected everything I needed for the first bit. Now I'm going to turn my attention most likely to the resonant armor and things like that. Well, specifically the plasma, just because most of the targets I fight in-game all deal plasma damage, and it'd be wise for me to start the next generation of my ships of Altarian technology off the bat with resonant armor. And I'm not going to be building the other technology just yet. I'm not going to be jumping into the Phoenix or anything like that right off the bat. Alright, let's go ahead and let's see how much repair time I got. 10 hours, of course. But for anyone curious about the fittings, they're all mixed up, as you could probably tell, because each one was made during the time where I was focusing on a certain target. And each one actually represents each target. The final production of those ships that I have actually has plasma-resistant armor and plasma shielding, specifically to fight the targets that I was just fighting. They, however, don't have plasma resistors because I haven't gotten any that I'd put on ships yet. Well, let's go ahead and let's rate this mobilization. Targets-wise, it's always going to be healthy because they're going to be spawning, and there's going to be an amplitude of higher level targets over lower level targets, because the people that are fighting the higher level targets earn their points more quickly, and so henceforth they're done more quickly. Whereas lower level targets will be more scarce because anybody that can't fight higher level targets will most definitely be falling back on them. So lower level target availability could be increased as well as decreased in high level to compensate, so that lower levels would have a better chance of advancing the Altarian tier. And I'm referring to lower levels not in the term of actual lower levels, but I mean people from the Xeno Division or Axis tier that are looking to step up to tier 7. But mobilization, so far the targets have been bearable. The rewards, they could be better in some aspects, but they could be much worse, most definitely, in comparison to previous variations of the mobilization, and as well as to previous events. Also, on top of this, I want to talk about the strikes. I posted something on the forum, and I never made a video for it. Well, this will partially be the video, and strikes have been in need of a rework in my eyes for a while now to bring them up to date with the current modern style of gameplay. In the development post by Dev Lioness, I'm gonna butcher your name, honestly, but you guys wanted to help players progress. And one thing that you guys got wrong is that you failed to address the actual problem with progression in my eyes. First off, I easily earned the Altarian tier and all of their stuff, except for I had to spend months upgrading my base. The problem for the players isn't that they're not able to catch up, it's the problem that they can't produce the ships quickly enough because of absurd upgrade times in the base. And bases, as we know, are obsolete against current technology. Your base could be level 80 and it can be carpet nuked, because Kixeye has failed to balance paragons when basing targets. And in comparison, Xeno guns, a single weapon, is almost as efficient now as the base equivalent, if not better. And that's just one gun on a ship. Remember, there are 4 per ship, and they can attack your base from any direction. 6 ships in your base at once from a single direction, well, typically 4, and then 2 cruisers, have more health, armor, resistance, and so much more than any single base module that you have. There is no way to avoid damage from certain targets that hit your base, and there are certain ones that are going to 100% flatten your base due to the improper balancing. The number of ways that the game could be balanced to help progression would be to remove everything in the base effectively so that if your base gets flattened, everything continues on. Because bases are so weak now that even with the repair reduction, they still take too long and they're not up to par. And the fact that your upgrades, your builds, and things like that get stalled because your base gets flattened means that you can be bullied and harassed, and there's truly nothing that you can do about it. Because your opponent could be using high-level technology that outclasses your modules by up to 10 times in certain scenarios. And to resolve the issue with progression, you have to resolve the issue in bases. Currently, bases, every single combat module only has one gun. That gun, in comparison to its Xenon above counterparts, as well as Axis, and not to mention the Altarians now, as well as the next faction, the Umbra, ship targets, the weapons, they're on an entirely different scale than that of bases. So if you want to say that you want to address the problems with progression and things like that and help players get in the Altarian tier, then you need to really pay attention to what people want. First off, the people that are stuck behind are either still upgrading their bases or trying to catch up, and you do have returning players every once in a while. I see them on the channel, they say they're returned. In the comment section, they ask everyone what's the current meta of the game, as well as what is the way to catch up, and you also have people like that on the forums. Pay attention to them, because the returning players are going to be the ones that are most affected by these changes. They're going to have to start month-long upgrades just to catch up before they can actually produce any of the ships, and the ships, again, they take long times. A fully fitted Mark V Bastion fitting that I have would take it would take between 15 days, 18 hours, to 16 days and 4 hours. And that is a fully fitted Mark V. Now, I know there are ships that take longer than that. Fully built up Covenant cruisers take longer than that. And they're obsolete tech. And their time tokens in their event, there's not nearly enough to cover the expense of how long it takes to produce just one of those ships. And another thing, currently, time tokens, they're not spawning in the market anymore. They haven't been for the past week. And yes, I have been paying attention. I just didn't want to say anything because I wanted to give the team a chance to try and resolve the issue. They have failed to do so. So this little video is a bit of a rant about bases and player progression, as well as strikes. And since I actually started on strikes and completely got off subject, strikes have been in need of rework, as I said, for a very long time now. Specifically the lower level strikes that offer old, outdated technology that is useless against the higher level equivalent. Unless you're a skilled pilot and you know what you're doing, you're going to lose the vast majority of fights, especially if you're a mobile player, because I was speaking with some of them, and they have more problems on the mobile than us here on PC, of which we do have problems as well. Their problems relate to the UI, the overall. When the game was ported over to mobile, they didn't rework the user interface as well as how the game interacts with cellular phones, tablets, and other devices. And I asked somebody how they strafe on a phone. They've never strafed at all while playing on VEGA from mobile because they don't know how to. I asked them how do they turn their ships around if they're sitting stationary. They want to start the fight by running away. They don't know how to other than actually turning the ship around and starting the strafe movement. But if you want to sit there for a little while, wait for your enemy to close in, open fire, and start moving then. The interface for it needs to be reworked, and I think this could all come under a generalized update to resolve certain issues in the game. First off, producing new content is no substitute for producing quality content. Taking your time in any number of issues is better than taking your time to produce new content which will be rejected by the player base because you still have yet to resolve issues that are months old, years old, possibly even as old as the game is, and you've just buried them. But Strikes, as I said, are in need of a rework to be more balanced around the current player criteria. First off, you guys say you want players to progress. Well then, actually, how about you pay attention and resolve the issues of progression? Progression is 2 steps. Step 1, obtain blueprint. Step 2, produce blueprint. You, however, cannot produce that blueprint ship if you do not meet the minimum requirements to build it. I.e., you do not have the correct fleet, the ship factory and the ship lab levels. That was the problem with Altarians here. A lot of people were a bit annoyed, even though we were given the upgrades in advance of 2 months before their release so that we could actually start the upgrades and be ready for them. A lot of us didn't because we were focused on other things. And that is still a problem. Players have to upgrade their bases and it takes months. And something that I noticed recently, let's just jump off this subject real quick. There's a market that comes up every now and then that is for upgrading modules. And I kind of laughed at that because it's only for upgrading the fleet bay, and it upgrades it to the max level. The fleet bay isn't the problem. You don't have to upgrade your fleet bay. You could upgrade your fleet bay only for what you need to upgrade the bridge to. But okay, what I said to do, back to the strikes, I told them to rework them and rework the targets more specifically. And treat low-level players as if they're high-level players in the post. Now, what do I mean by that? Every single target we fight in any main event, such as Mobilization or anything like that, the targets we hit always drop a secondary object that we can use. Actually, I don't even have to do that. Let's open up Mobilization's panel here. Alright. As you can see, there are additional loot drops for high-level targets. These are not consistent on low-level targets, so lower-level players, not only is it harder for them to advance due to having to grind for a longer time frame for the exact same useless price, and yes, I say useless because it's old, outdated tech. And if someone tells somebody to spend in-game, that's a disgusting tactic, and that shouldn't be acceptable. But what I recommended was that they rework the strikes so that they treat low-level players like high levels and introduce, to compensate for the abysmally low payout, that they allow secondary drops like these, what we see in high-level targets. So you would see boxes specifically for the type of thing you're using. So if you're playing in Planet Strike, the target's going to drop all the stuff to upgrade ships from that strike. So right now we have the Dreadnought and the Zeal battleships. We have the battleship Planet Strike going on. Well, the targets would vary, and they'd be revamped so that each one would drop guaranteed boxes. And now what guaranteed was, there was a little bit of confusion from what I understood on the forum post. And let me just clear it up. The guaranteed boxes are unlike the standard boxes that you go through the supply runs. And what I mean by this is, unlike having a random chance at a box and having a random chance at actually getting something from said box, you have a guaranteed drop chance that they'll drop the one pattern that is necessary to start the mark upgrade. You have everything in that box to start the mark upgrade as well. It, however, will not include resources. It will be just the ship, so you will have to provide the resources to start the mark upgrades. Along with that, the secondary rewards will be unique items, and one part of the post that I actually cut out, or didn't mention all that much, unique skins, because Kixeye seems to think that everything looks good in gold. Well, I think that a rework that brings everything up to the elite level, and I mean everything from tier 0 and up, to rebalance the game. And yes, if anyone ever argues the point, the game is improperly balanced. First off, higher tier ships have the elite mark upgrade, which increases their speed in sectors, so they gain an unfair advantage over anyone below tier 6. And there are still plenty of people below tier 6 because they either just gave up on trying to catch up because it's become so tedious and so annoyingly hard that they can't, and so they focus on other things. But balancing the game has gone off very, very easily, and resolving the issues through progression is one step in the right direction, but 2 steps in the wrong direction. I'll talk about that in another video. But the strikes, they need to be redone so that every player is treated more equally, from the littlest person to the highest high level. And it should stand tall so that everybody has a chance to advance, and older technology should be skipped out more often, like what I did, where I jumped from Tier 3 to the Xeno Division when the going was good due to the targets. And I was taking a look, and again, this is something else I brought up in the forum post. Build times restrict progression as well, because you can't use new technology if you have to wait for it. Now, it's not actually new technology, it's old outdated technology, and you can only get 2 days worth of build tokens from each strike. Well, that isn't efficient, because a lot of the ships that you get from the strikes take well above 2 days to build blank. So what I recommended was to actually change each strike to be unique to the targets they provide, so that the players would be given the number of time tokens necessary to produce a single ship fully fitted at the base level, not mark upgrade, just at the base level. So you could get 1 ship per strike, and there's 2 planet strikes, you get 2 ships per week. And if anyone says that the idea would be interesting if it was implemented, well, don't say that. Actually find a way to provide additional information. What do you think would be specifically good about it being implemented? There are cons and there are pros of it, so try and list a few of both and counter it out. That's the type of thing that I asked for on the forum, and people have been doing that, and lately they've been listing off items that higher levels would like, but they haven't seen any strikes or anything like that. They haven't seen it anywhere. Specifically Xeno munitions. Not even I have Xeno munitions, and I can't even remember what was added into the game. But strikes are in need of a rework. The game's balance has favored higher tiers. First off, the Grand Rebalance. What was it to address? It was to make it so that all ships were equal. Well, let's go ahead and let's take a look at the Rapture Cruiser and compare it to something like the Bastion. Movement speed and everything like that, they're all the same. Now, if you take a look at a different ship, you're going to see something else. Let's take a look at a destroyer compared to a Tier 5 destroyer. It's slower, and I've brought this up before. They said that they changed the stats to favor the higher tier. Well, don't favor them, they're already one-shotting the vast majority of lower-level ships. And another point that was brought up, these strikes didn't need to be reworked, because a lot of it I mentioned was all about bullying and balancing the game out and making it fair for the low levels. And something people didn't seem to understand is there are bullies that will go out of their way to use high-end technology, lightly fitted, so that it falls within the lower tier criteria. And there's nothing that the opponent can do in that fight, because they're outclassed, outgunned, even with a full fleet. Granted, you can run, but you can only run for 5 minutes and then they just restart the fight, and it's a waste of your time. And upgrading everything to elite level from 0 and above means that everybody gets the same high speed movement speed that is seen in sectors, so you can either run away from your target or you can engage them. The elite levels would be similar to the Tier 6 and above, and when you obtain them, they just increase cargo of your ship. That's it. But there is very little else to talk about aside from this. So, what do all of you think thus far of the mobilization? What do you think needs to be specifically reworked in the Planet Strike? And what aspects of the game need to be reworked? Bases have always been in need of a change, and KIXEYE hasn't done so, so I believe that since they are incapable of changing them, they should just make it so that there's no negative impact for your base being destroyed. Because in all fights I've seen, the vast majority of the time there is high tech against low tech, and the base stood no chance. And that means that if you're told just to leave a fleet out and defend it, your enemy can bring a fleet specifically to destroy your fleet, and there's nothing you can do again. So bases, just like Planet Strikes, are in need of a rework, but since there's no interest in bases, the best way to resolve the issue would be just to make it so that there's no negative impact of having your base destroyed aside from losing resources. Make it so that upgrades continue on, productions continue on, repairs continue on regardless, research continues on, crafting continues on, refits continue on, everything like that continues regardless of the state of your base. That is just one potential fix for this issue. I know this video is running on for a long time, and even editing it down, it's still going to be long. But I just wanted to get these things out there. But that's going to be it, everybody. If you liked anything from the video, feel free to leave a like. If you have any questions, if you have any suggestions, or anything like that, feel free to leave a comment. And if you like the content that is produced here, feel free to subscribe for more. And as always, everybody, I'll see you later. And you could get blank hulls for the Altarian stuff. Oh, everyone says, I'm going to quickly just, this is a side note for everybody that everybody's going to get a laugh off of. Okay, Umber targets, the drop chance in the ships everyone says is extremely low. Well, I'm going to show you something and I'm going to help you all get a laugh. Now, me and Toxic Bait were joking that it'd be funny if I could get ships from the boxes. So far I've opened 56 boxes, I've gotten 2 ships. One of the ships that I joked about getting was a Bastion because I'm starting the next production test of them to fight higher tier targets, specifically ones that do plasma damage. And what happened was I opened 33 boxes and I got a suppressor in it. I let them know and hilarity ensued. Now, everybody was offline, I was farming the second time, and I opened 11 boxes and I got a Bastion, and I say that I got Mark IV Bastion because I have all the parts necessary to fully upgrade them. And it is right here. I just need to fit it. And I hear everybody complaining about the drop chance. Well, the drop chance is fairly low, but from what I've seen, roughly every 33 boxes you'll get 1 ship, as it currently is, because that seems to be what I've gotten. So every 100 boxes you can say roughly you get 3 ships. Unless you have horrid luck and you actually get none, then I don't know what to tell you. But so far for me, it's been 33 boxes is equivalent to 1 ship thus far. Or roughly around that. I said I've only opened like 44, 48, and I've gotten 2 ships, so it kind of breaks it. It seems more like it's 1 ship for every 25 boxes. Granted.